All right, there we are. So I'm going to be talking about the art of persuasion for those of you who came on board. So I've been making posts on all types of social media for people to come on board and learn the art of persuasion. So I'm going to be sharing a couple of my own personal lessons because I've been looking around because I know everybody in business has to make a sale or you have to pitch to people your idea to get them on board. And I looked around and it was so scanty on information, but then I had also been able to do it for plenty of times. I was like, maybe let me get the work in and make a compilation of what I have seen around. So this is going to be the art of persuasion. And basically I'm saying how to make the perfect pitch for your idea. I'm seeing more people actually coming on board. So, but we're going to go ahead. So in the respective people whose time, who actually are here on time. Okay, so let's go. By the end of the session, you will know the art of creating a good pitch for idea. That's what we intend. And basically, I'll give you the tools to create your own too. That's thinking about beginning with the end in mind. That is a Stephen Covey quote, begin with the end in mind. So we hope that by the end of this, you will know the art of creating a good pitch for your idea. And there are so many scenarios you can do this. That may be a sales presentation, maybe a presentation to buy your idea, maybe at work, or or even just on a one-on-one call with a person. So you'll find that some of the tools may apply to groups, others may apply on an individual basis. Okay, so when you make a presentation, you have two possible results at the end. The first one is usually it's like an ego trip thing, and you're thinking that people actually just come out and say that was a very good presentation. Then they give, I think I've been in situations like that where you make a presentation and afterwards people says that was a good presentation, and that was it, and that's it. But then the second possible result that you want is a person saying, sign me up for the cause. How can I play a part? How much money do you need? How much does it cost to actually get on board? As in, they're asking for the next step. That's the type of presentations we want to make. You don't want ones where people just come and say, thanks, thanks for the presentation. That was a good presentation. We want people to vote with their wallets most of the time or a decision for the next step. Okay. But why is it that it's me who's talking about this? I've done 15 years in the banking industry. And the funny part about it is I've been in corporate governance principles, that is advocating for things like risk management, strategy management, change management, performance, projects. So for some reason, getting these new ideas on board means selling people on them. Either you're selling management on the idea, and when they approve it, then you have to get the whole organization to come on board. So I've done this for all this time. Then and then somewhere along the way, I got into direct sales as a side hustle. And for 5 years, I had to do presentations almost like on a daily basis, online and even physical and in groups. And then the good thing about the side hustle that I was doing at the time is they were more deliberate because since they're building a sales army, they needed to teach people about entrepreneurship and then personal development and sales. So on a quarterly basis, at least a minimum of 3 times in a year, you'd find yourself at a training teaching you about what it takes to build a business, how to make sales, how to build community, and all that stuff. So I just saw that there's a difference between these two. When you're doing the ones for which I was doing at work, most of the time it's either you're presenting a report and then data. It's kind of dry. But then when you do the ones when you're doing when I was doing the side hustle for the sales thing, you find that as you present your idea, you have that leverage, the flexibility to add your story, somebody else's story. You have the leverage where you can actually talk about maybe books that you're reading, as in the whole personality thing would actually come in. So I saw the difference between these two, and some people actually know how to. I think I do know how to ace the one I was doing for the fifth for my corporate job, but then I was also able to get some good results in the 5 years. At least I was able to earn as much doing my side hustle as I was doing on my 9 to 5. That's a good result. So that's why I think I say I'm qualified to talk about this subject. Okay. So outside me, so here are the top mistakes people make when they pitch their ideas. These are the top mistakes. So the thing is, if we know the mistakes, it's most of the time, if we start with the problem, then you know how to fix it. Okay. So these are the top mistakes people make. The first one is failing to understand the audience, pitching an idea without understanding the pain points and motivations of the audience. Number two, lack of preparation. If you don't prepare, you're gonna bomb. And the whole thing about preparation is that it doesn't, I think even just extra 20 minutes before a presentation can actually make a very big difference. And and most people think that actually, if you've seen the presentation before, you maybe prepared it, you think you can actually just come and wing it and then things will work out. But if you're not intentional, you may actually crash. Then we have lack of clarity. So failing to articulate your idea clearly and concisely can confuse your audience. Then overwhelming the audience, basically presenting too much information. And the one that I've seen a lot in many spaces is using your inner jargon. So you have, maybe you're industry specific, so you keep on using terms that are only, unless maybe the audience is conversant with it, but then using your personal jargon as you present can actually overwhelm them, and it makes the pitch less memorable. The next one we have is ignoring the competition. So the whole thing about competition is that it's most of the time there's nothing really new under the sun. So failing to address the competition, basically you're saying that this is how these guys do this thing. This is how my proposition is you'll find, I'll give an example. Let's say like weight loss. Weight loss is a topic, but you'll find some guys are saying intermittent fasting. Other people are saying you need to lift weights. Other people are saying diet. So you find that for you to propel your idea, sometimes you need to discredit something else on the market. So, but then how do you discredit something? You only discredit something if you know about it. Okay, lack of passion. So that is failing to demonstrate enthusiasm and conviction about your idea. Then asking for too much too soon. Okay, so the thing about asking for too much too soon is this. Sometimes it's like when you're pitching, it's like you're trying to date someone. I'm not the strongest on that one, but I know that's what it's supposed to be like. But if you don't kind of take a person sequentially on this journey, you find that you kind of sound pushy, unrealistic. So basically you have to build trust and rapport with the audience. Then focusing too much on features instead of benefits. So the whole thing about getting your pitch idea out there is most of the people see life through their own eyes. We are kind of selfish in a way. So there's that thing where we call what is in it for me. I'll give a small example for features and versus benefits. And I'm going to compare two companies. And if you, I'm not trying to beat down on anyone here, but if you have, if you're a person who uses a Samsung, you find that they sell you on specs. They tell you we have a 10 megapixel camera with all these things. And then if you saw how they market Apple, Apple kind of builds and says, okay, they won't say we have a how many megapixel camera. They'll say maybe you get an opportunity to create memories with your to capture memories with your family and actually have the space, and because maybe they're trying to tell you that to be able to back them out on the cloud, that and be able to store them so that you don't lose the memories. But then what are you saying? Talking about camera and capturing the information. But then when you go to the Android side, they normally say 10 megapixel camera, just tell you all these features. So you can see that's why I see the community of Apple people is kind of different from the community of Android users, just that split. And these things are done intentionally, and that's something you can actually pick up on. We have another mistake is not telling the speech to a specific audience. I've seen, I don't know, I've seen people who have a certain topic and they keep on using the same delivery, like a one size fits all pitch. Yet you'll find that they have different people in their audience. So that is not tailoring the pitch to a specific audience. Then we have lack of credibility. Credibility, as in, I actually did that myself. Why should they listen to you? That's where it actually goes. If you don't provide sufficient evidence or credentials, or maybe you have the results to be the person to talk about this thing, then people won't trust you. So you sometimes have to build that trust in people. I'm admitting people as I go as well. So then another one we have is poor delivery. Delivery of the pitch, basically your body language, your tone of voice. I've seen something about some presentations where a person holds your attention so well even when they pause, you're waiting. And some of the things you can see from on delivery, places you can learn about delivery of information is like stand-up comedy. I don't know about you guys, but I love stand-up comedy. And you wonder how a person is able to hold people for like 1.5 hours, like a Dave Chappelle, and everybody is waiting for them to say something, and it's basically a laughter thing. But sometimes you have to watch out for how those guys in grip without dozing, because most people within 1 hour. Actually, other people to watch preachers. That's delivery. So sometimes you have to step out of the box of being the person receiving the message and being like, how is this guy able to keep me here for 1 hour and I still want to be here? Okay. Another mistake is being too long or too short. Being too long or too short. Okay. I was like looking at the message in the chat. Okay, thank you. Thanks for that. Barbara, I can see what you're saying. Okay. So being too long or too short. So the pitch should be long enough to convey the key points, but short enough to maintain the audience's attention. So those are the mistakes people are actually making. So the question becomes, how do we make sure we don't make this mistake? So sometimes when you say this is the mistake, then when we're saying how not to get the mistake done means flip logic, you'd be like, okay, just don't do it. That could be the answer, but that's not enough. So I'm going to share with you, this is my business coach. I'm going to share with you what my business this is. My business coach, Marion Golden. So if you follow me on social media, you see me posting many things about that actually does. Yeah, he has a good YouTube channel called Myron Golden. So if you're curious, you can go follow him. He teaches basically business using Bible principles. So if business is your thing, and the same thing, if business is your thing and you like the Bible, he has a way he teaches in such a way that you actually see the synergy between the two. And he says, this is something I found in one of his products called the Make More Offers Challenge. It's like a 5-day program. I normally promote it as well. And he says that human beings are singularly motivated. Okay. And here's what it is. People do things. I did this verbatim. Okay. People do things for one reason and one reason only. And it's because they feel like it. And here's like a practical demonstration of it. Those that exercise do it because they have found a way to make them feel like exercising more than not exercising. This is the year I chose to be my healthiest. I think I picked up some kilos along the way, and I've been trying. I find like every day is a day you convince yourself to go to the gym. I'm a swimmer, so every day is a day I convince myself to go to the swimming pool. And then when I get there, I have to convince myself to do maybe like 20 laps, 40 laps. Or I usually do that yesterday, actually on Thursday, I did 1,000 meters. I was very happy with myself. But it makes you be like, what's making me come here every day? What it's most of us, we look at doing the things we have to do through our own lens. So you basically have to make yourself feel like doing. So the thing about making a pitch is creating an environment that makes people feel like buying. I would like you guys to write that down. Create an environment that makes them feel like buying, because we do things because we feel like. You buy the shoes because you feel like. You buy that car because you feel like. Okay. So let's begin with how to make now the presentation good. So you have the mistakes done. You've seen why you do the things that you do. Now let's fix up a couple of things. So if you have an audience in front of you, you have two ways you can actually look at the audience. And the first one is through personality. If you're into psychology and that space of things, you're going to find that people, there's going to find that there's something called the Big Five. And if you want to kind of have it in your head, you can use an acronym called OCEAN. So OCEAN means openness to experience. The C goes to conscientiousness. E is extroversion. A is agreeableness, and neuroticism is the last one. So if you're in that space, there are so many tests you can do to identify who you are. But I remember when I was doing sales as direct selling, we had a test that was based on these same principles, but they were able to distill it for purposes of communicating it to us is through the personality types. So I would like to use this framework Although if you're interested in this, there's Myers-Briggs, there's the DISC test. It's a whole ball game of personality in the psychology space. But let's focus on this, which is like someone made an extraction from this and was able to come up with these 4 personality types. So we have blues, yellows, greens, and reds. So in an audience, you're going to find people who are blues. Blues are normally people who are excitable. They're those people who be in a room and they be whoop whoop. They're always shouting and not making all that noise. They're very excited people about life. It comes with its drawbacks. So even in the blues, you'll find people who are overly doing it as a blue, and there are people who are like on the mid range and another one. You have yellows. So yellows are people who are very caring. You know, those friends who try to keep peace among you guys. They provide support. They don't like quarreling, so they seek agreement among people. And for some reason, people who are on the yellow zone are normally trusted. People normally are drawn to them because they are in that softy area. Then we have the reds. Reds, if you know people who are highly driven, they take charge, they just want results, they are strong-willed. That's the personality type of a person who is a red, and that is a driver. Okay, so if you've seen a person who is highly driven, those are the drivers. Then we have the greens. The greens are very analytical people, and they are very cautious. They are very precise. They look at life through logic. They want to see facts. And the funny thing about it is you're going to find is for each of these personality types, you'll find that people choose the path for their people choose the work that they do sometimes from personality. So one thing that I know for analytical people who are the greens, I've seen a couple of lawyers because part of the job requires that attention to detail. It's you find lawyers there. Then you find people who are yellows, you find them in that like NGO space, the kind of care. Then reds are kind of variable. As long as sometimes when they're very strong-willed, that as long as there's money, and they are driven to do it, they'll do it. Then blues are on the usually you find blues on the entertainment side, but also you find as even like events, people who are social, you find them as blues. So if you look at people through one lens of personality, when you have an audience, basically you know that they are people who are of different shades. So I like that we used to do these personality tests, and what it helps you to do is if you do it yourself, you find out who you are. And then when you communicate, most of our times we think that when you communicate to a person, you're communicating to them like you. So if you are blue, you kind of want a very highly expressive thing. If you're like a red, you have this violence going on as you present. If you're a yellow, you have this tonality of simpleness, no hassle. Then the greens, they want all the lines, okay? So you find that when you're presenting, you have all these people in front of you. And what we used to do is when you do this test, you'd find that when you do the test, it tells you maybe you're 40% blue, then you tell you maybe you're 20% yellow, you're as in basically like a gradation until you have 100. So I remember when I did mine plenty of times, I was normally blue and yellow was next. Then I was green and red was my last. So meaning at that time, because sometimes as you go along in life, you find that the color scheme can actually change. That meant that I was very excitable. When you tell me there's proggy, I just jump on it. These days, I know I'm a blue, but I know the blue is inside there. But for those of you who are just talking about this, just know about personality types. It's a whole topic by itself, but it helps you communicate with the people in your environment. Maybe as a spin-off, if any of you have seen 5 love languages, it's kind of using the same philosophy. Find out who you are, and then if you know who you are from the because that one now is in the love side of things. If you know who you are, you're able to see the other people from a certain framework because the world is too wide. So if you see them from a certain framework, you're like, okay, this person maybe likes gifts. So you give them something that you love them the way they want to be loved, if that makes sense. But that is 5 love languages anyway. So we're using this as a way to see your audience. So next one, how is another way you can see your audience? There are only 2 ways. The first one is personality. Second one is the buyer's journey. There are very many frameworks you can see around this. And from the buyer's journey, some people, if you've been in maybe sales and stuff, some people call it hot market, cold market, whole market. So on this one, I prefer this framework instead of the buyer's journey. There's a sidewalk, there's a slow lane, and then there's a fast lane. So you know that the fast lane is where the car is, right? So here, a person who's on the fast lane understands their pain. They understand your method. They really want to solve. They really want to solve this problem. They want to take action. So a person in the first lane, I'll give as an example. If I'm a first lane person, if I have a toothache and I go to the doctor, I just want the pain away. I know as in I've come to you because I want you to solve my problem. Then a person on the slow lane, they understand their pain or problem. They're open to a solution, but they're just looking through options. I'll give an example of a person on a slow lane. Slow lane person, let's say I'm looking for something that I've bought myself. Slow lane person. I have a car and then I just want to get another car. So since I already have a car, I'm just in the market looking through. I'm open to, because I know I need to replace it, but I'm not in really a rush. So I'm a slow lane person. So I just go through, I have no rush. I'm going through all the options that I have. And we do that for so many things where you're just scrolling through what's the best place. I'm looking for maybe I'm getting married. And then I'm looking for a suit. I know that there is no really urgency. If I have the time, the event maybe is 1 year out, and I'm looking, so I'm a slow lane person. Then a sidewalk person is the worst person in your audience. And this one doesn't fully understand the pain or problem in their life. So, or even foresee future problems. I'll give an example. It's like how you find a person who is broke and it doesn't even bug them a little bit. Sidewalk. So that one is a person you have, because now that is in a cold market. So that means cold. It means that you have to do so much for them it's like you have to shake them up a bit for them to get warm and then take action like a fast learner. But you find it's a journey. So you find these kind of three people in your audience, a buyer's journey. But the best thing you can do sometimes is make sure that you have fast learners. So the way you communicate to all these guys is different. So you can find that if I'm communicating to maybe a sidewalk or a slow learner, I just tell them these are usually we're kind of like negative people. So I can say things to the effect that these are the problems you will face if you do not do this. So I have to just give them a future cast them, tell them what is wrong with what they're doing right now, so that maybe they can make a flip and make a decision for their future. But this is the spectrum of people you're actually going to have in your audience. Now that we have the two people, now let's do the tips themselves for a persuasive presentation. So we've already agreed right now that people do things for one reason and one reason only, and that is because they feel like doing them. You go to the gym because you feel like doing it. You go and you go and make your purchases because you feel like doing it. Okay. Sometimes we get locked into this thing of like, why do people do things? We do things because we feel like doing them. So then what's the solution? The solution is to create an environment for people where they feel like doing the thing. Make sense? Now we can go to the tips themselves. And on the spectrum of making decisions, people make decisions emotionally more than logically. And that's the feeling. I think that the feeling factor is coming in. And this is an anchor point. So we have one anchor point on why people buy. We have an anchor point of the kind of people who are in our audience. And then this is how they make the decisions. People make decisions emotionally and justify them with logic. I'm going to take this one on a personal level. I'm a person who likes buying shoes a lot, but every time I think about it, when I'm maybe looking through a shop and then I find a shoe. So I like that we do that every time. Let's say you travel, they let you put on even shoes you can't afford without asking too many questions. So you get a shoe, maybe it's like one of those Lebrons. You've seen the price tag on the shoe is like maybe like $1,000, and you're like, what does $1,000 feel like on my foot? But then you look through the process of all the pairs of shoes you've bought before. It's like the moment you put the shoe on, you start imagining all the outfits that it's going to match with. You see, if it's a lady, it's a yellow shoe. It really looks like dangerous choice. But you know there's this white dress that has yellow flowers in it. And when they tell you how much, all you can see in your head is that day you walk out with that car shoe and the yellow shoe with you in that white dress with the yellow flowers, and it will be like a match. and maybe you have a yellow hat somewhere, you just be like, so if you all logic leaves you, even if you're broke, you'd be like, okay, let me deposit 50K on it, I'm coming back for it. And then you start pursuing the rest of the money like no man's business. But that actually proves to you that we make decisions emotionally, justify them with logic. Okay. I think that one's another anchor point. So now, how do we do this? How do we do this? This is practical application right now. I think we are kind of 20 minutes in now from since we started. I think we're doing good on time. So the first one is to be a good storyteller. So the thing about selling stuff, storytelling, imagine we've been, I think even stories are passed down from generation to generation through stories. But being a good storyteller is like a very, it's if anything you have to do for yourself, you need to be a good storyteller. In management spaces, you may find that your people just want to come and present the report and go away. But when you're selling things that are come with you as an individual, your story is a very important thing. Because imagine if you're doing a management presentation, they hired you to do project management. When you come to present, all they need is this is the project plan. There's nothing about you. So there's no personal thing. That's why I used to like that. When I did corporate, I would do that very dry presentation that has no emotion to it. There's maybe urgency and stuff, but then there's no individuality. So I like that when I was doing the sales gig, your story came through, you personally had to rise through. So what does it mean to tell to be a good storyteller? So the first one is to learn to tell your own story. So what does that mean? You have to become a student of your own life. So the whole thing is like you have to make a review of your own life to make the past more valuable so that you can invest it in the future. It's like I'm looking for there's a when I was doing sales, there's a guy who used to tell us that I think we're selling a travel club membership. For him to get the money to get on board, I remember his story was he sold a microphone that was in his studio to get the money to begin. And this is now on a trail of a couple of maybe months in, and then he's making good money, even more than what it cost him to do the mic. So you can find that a person who is in the audience and has a resistance to making the investment says that that's when they feel like you need to be the lesson there is you need to be resourceful to find the money. That is for a person who is in the audience that had an objection of, I have no money. So that's the power of storytelling the stories. It's individual. And then also what I saw also when you're telling stories is you find that in an audience, different people kind of subscribe to people who are like them. So you find if it's a teacher and they come and tell a story, the people in the room who are teachers identify themselves in that person. So people lean more into your stories and why you do what you do. Then it's a product or service. So it's basically first you, then whatever is attached to you. I am an individual who is Kevin, but then if you like Kevin, you will, and his values most of the time is if he's able to articulate them through his communication, then you can easily align to whatever he's doing. We trust people first, then the product or service. And that's why you can see these days personal branding is like a whole big thing. So another thing about learning to create stories is to learn to create pictures in minds of people is with your emotions. And that comes with not being lazy in language. Most of us, the last time we saw a dictionary is a couple of years ago. I don't know if that is you. I think that was me sometime, but then I remember that I had to go and buy a dictionary. Sometimes we think we know everything, but there's Google anyway. So if you don't have a dictionary, at least you Google, find meanings of what. The thing about language is sometimes even the definitions of what's in the dictionary is not good enough to even act on. I like this guy I follow called Alex Hormozy. So you find he says something like, what does it mean to be let's say, what does it mean to advertise? Advertise, if I say advertise, it's not an actionable word. But then if I say it's the process of making yourself known, then it actually comes to life. Yet it's just one word, advertise. But then a person gives it a narrative, and that's not a narrative in a dictionary. So another thing to learn to tell your own stories is learn from great speeches. I'm one of those buffs for American Black history. So I think I've watched most of these speeches. I think there was a time when there was actually Denzel did a movie on Malcolm X. So, and guess what? He had to do the speeches for Malcolm X with a personality. Then I don't know if there's been any movies of a person. Yeah. I think there's a movie on Martin Luther King which was, I think it's called Selma, but it focused on that walk on the bridge. For those of you like Barack Obama. Oh, I think someone has to mute themselves. Okay. Or else I'm going to mute you, but I think it's quiet now. Okay. Here we are. So we are telling your own story. So these are the things you can do to tell your own story. That is learning to tell own story. Let me mute mute the people who are coming on. Okay, I think they're not saying anything anymore. So
let me, I'm not sure, but Airtel, do you have Airtel? Let me send an Airtel.
okay. I think Barbara is talking. You can mute. I think you have unmuted. Barbara, you're talking. Okay, so next one is to translate all your business into stories. So for example, this is a small example, is like become story conscious as well as figure conscious. And for example, let's say I am doing, let's say I'm talking about like social media. The thing about social media can be like, the numbers, these are the numbers for growth in social media and then the opportunities that's in it. So, or if I say things of like, we made so much money, you represent what the money means rather than the money itself or where the opportunity lies. So if I talk about, let's say, these are the numbers of people who are joining social media, this is the opportunity which is in it. And I've done that before. I remember when you're in the travel space, you'd give the story of like, if you look at the hotel industry, there's a number of people, this is the growth. And that means we are reaching a point where we have had so much peace relatively that there is a culture for people to take much more of holidays, make time for family and stuff like that as values. And given that we've reached a point, maybe the average income of people actually has gone up and people have much more money to spend. So you can see that it's a story, but it comes with the numbers. So the next one is learning to tell other people's stories. So sometimes your story is not enough. Other people's stories is proof of concept that your product or service can do. And basically that validates your idea. And then people get to see the impact your product has on other people. So because they see themselves in other people. And this is most of what we call testimonials. So if you've seen people who jump around from one church to another, you find that this is not me bashing anything, but it's things I listen to. So you'll find that there are churches, someone talk about a church that maybe when people go to this church, they have these ailments, they get healed. So there is maybe a pastor for that. Testimonial is selling you. Then another person tell you, there's this church where if you have marital problems, that's where they get their solutions. I don't know, maybe you guys know these churches as well. Then they'll tell you maybe there is this church where much as they talk about the spiritual side, but then they're able to look business into it. So so you find that, and then as they look business into it, maybe they've been able to do these things with a business. So you find this is learning to other people's stories, and then you drive people to the traffic to wherever they feel their appeal is. Okay, we are done. This is just one. Number two, accurate facts. So I've spent a lot of time on stories because I feel it's one of the most important ones. Accurate facts. This is like a repetition. It's like me saying truth, truth, right? So accurate facts, dealing in truths. You have to have accurate facts of your industry because truths give credibility and you do not need to exaggerate. And basically the truth is good enough. I've been to places where a person can they feel like if they exaggerate the numbers, you believe more. But what I've realized myself is the moment you say something that is not factual and a person, we have Google these days, it strips the whole presentation of its credibility. And like Winston Churchill had that statement where he says the truth is inconvertible, malice may attack it, ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there it is. I think even if I spent 2 nights on just looking to the sky, I cannot come up with these kind of words. And that's why we actually go to the next one, which is quotes. So quotes are good for presentations, especially if you build a quote around your idea. So what I say here right now is borrow someone's good language. Some things have been said so well, there's no need for you to reframe. Use quotes are relevant to your idea, borrow anything that supports your argument, and don't limit yourself to sources. So if I listen to, like I talked about earlier from Myron Golden, he uses the Bible. Bible is his truth. He picks everything from there, then we let's it into the real world, and then plus other books as well. So he just does a merge between books he reads and the Bible, and then his personal experience, which is his personal stories, which he talked about. So borrow and don't limit yourself. I think I try to find some like quotes. I think I found Jay-Z, Mandela, Grant Cardone. These are people who have been influential. I don't know, maybe you guys don't know Grant Cardone, but he's also a loud mouth on social media. He has a couple of quotes. So you find that you can borrow from anywhere. And then the Bible. I think the Bible is a very good place. Maybe if you're a Muslim, the Quran actually is a good place for you to. And the thing about borrowing from somebody else means you have competence in that place. Someone is actually asking here that it's said lately, truths are subjective based on perspective. How do you emphasize your truth in the wake of varying perspectives? Okay, my stance on truth is we choose what we believe and then you stand on it. And the whole thing about you have to choose a side you're on. It's like let's say I'm a spiritual person. I know one of the contentious topics we find is religion, but if that's my truth, that's my truth. You have to leave space for that person to have their truth. If they don't align with you, then they're not for you. It's like that's the way I look at truths. The truth is the truth. Imagine, and also you find that truths also come with your own personal experience. If you've done something and it has worked for you, that is your truth. Then you can find things that actually support your idea. But then sometimes you find that I have evidence in the real world that this worked for me. So why do I need to argue with somebody else? That's the way I look at subjectivity. Sometimes you have to stand on something and you stay with it. Then along the way, maybe if that changes, we live lives through lessons. You can actually drop the idea eventually and say, I've dropped that idea, because even when you look through your trail of life, you found that maybe you've changed your ideas along the way with new information, new experience. So you can't have to stick to everything and be true. It's truthful for you in the time, but sometimes actually can change. So the truth can change. That is my view on that before I continue. Okay, I hope I kind of addressed that. We'll take some questions at the end. So we're going to go to the next one, which is straight talk. We're talking about how to get your pitch to be very compelling and get people to make a decision to. So straight talk, the pictures I got here, I see ladies are here talking, but then I can see a straight talk right now is from a parent to a child. That's real straight talk there. So straight talk. You have to tell it like it is, but in simple language. Be straight to the person and actually lay out the consequences of them not taking on the idea. Okay, so you give them time to make an evaluation of, are my current practices going to take me where I want to go? Basically, am I kidding myself? So they have to make a self-audit of themselves. And then if you tell it like it is, you give basically the cost of inaction. I'll give, if you look at lenses for decision making, I like health spaces much, because health spaces are a good example. You can show up for that, translate to everybody. It's very easy to see. So if maybe I'm trying to get people to get more healthy, I have to give the consequences of, if you stay on this path, this is what's going to happen to you. Your old age is going to be maybe like, I can be like, in your old age, maybe your body doesn't break down food as fast as it can. If you do not add maybe exercise movement to your rhythm, these are the consequences. Oh, and then the person has to evaluate if they really want to live till they're at what age, and then what kind of life will they live if they don't make that change. Okay. Let me drink some water. So basically, what you're using is, when you tell it like it is, it helps you to overcome objections during the presentation. And sometimes you have to use stories to tell it like it is, because sometimes part of telling it like it is to show that this is something in the real world. You can see someone over there. Can you see that person over there? Do you know the choices they made are the same as you're making right now? So on a time trail of a couple of years, you're going to be like them. And that person is, so sometimes even the testimonial can be a person on the negative side. Sometimes we need bad examples to make flips. So you tell it like it is. Next one, passion. We're almost done with these kinds of passion. Passion is the next one. So I actually had to use an artist and see people who are enjoying their work. I know people. I know we have some creative people here who are passionate about the things they do, but then uh, you passionate people. I know what comes with it. I'm sometimes passionate about ideas. So the thing about emotional intensity, this is the passion part, is emotion drives the message. Okay. So you have to learn to articulate your passion, emotion, beliefs, and convictions. I think I talked about something on conviction. If you choose your idea, your conviction sometimes is this. The way I look at conviction is in any conversation between two people, the person with the most conviction will be the one that influences people. So the person with the most conviction is most certain. I've been in spaces where you had this idea, you believe in it, and then you find a person who is more convicted about their path. And then you even start to question yourself if you're wrong. And sometimes you have to lean into theirs. So sometimes it requires that kind of emotional intensity with a person. It doesn't have to be loud sometimes, but you find it's very assertive. You find someone looks in your eyes and you wither away with your idea withers while you're looking at them. So let it flow from deep down, not the surface. The flow of emotion can seal a point. And guess what? Like we said earlier, it's through emotional intensity that a person is, we make our decisions emotionally, just like justify them with logic. Just remember that. Okay. Next one is to challenge a person. So the whole thing is, like we said before, two things we want as a result. Either you want to come out of presentation and someone says, that was a good presentation, or you want to come out and someone actually says, can I join the cause? So you have to challenge them. And this is something I've actually witnessed myself. We all respond to a challenge. Okay. So you don't forget to ask people at the end to get on this journey with you. You have to have a call to action that is clear. And one thing I've observed, especially when it comes to sales spaces, when you're asking for money. So you find that the presentation has come with all this energy at the start. And then when it comes to asking for the money, you find the person's voice drops. Because now I think we have all our mental things that come with money sometimes, which for those of you who have issues with making money and maybe thinking money is evil, sometimes you need to go and do some therapy on that end so that you can maintain your energy when you're asking people to join your cause. If you really believe in it with the high emotional intensity, when it comes to asking for the money, you should stay with the same energy, okay? So don't be mild with your request. And if it requires, put some FOMO, a fear of missing out. Be like, this offer is only for available for this long, okay? And then you have to use closed-ended questions because you have to close, as in it's closing the deal, right? So you have to be like, are you ready to get started with me? Are you in or are you out? It has to be kind of strong language that is motioning. It's either yes or a no. If you're saying no, tell me so. Let's move, right? So yeah, then you have to remind people of the consequences of inaction. So I've been to a couple of pitches where a person says something with so much conviction to enroll into this thing, in that even when you go to bed, you can't sleep because of what you are during the day. I think that's compelling idea. Next one is using images and videos. So I think I tried this one at the beginning. I began with, for those of you who came on late, we began with some music at the start. It was for my own self to get energy. But then, videos come with audio as well. So if you use images and video, it actually does help in your visuals. So right now you can see people are using all these AI tools and all these, we have this is actually an old model. I think I've seen the new one that has come out. It's going crazy with these virtual reality tools right now. So use graphical illustrations where possible, because we are very visual as humans. Then the visuals basically help stir up imagination, and audio that complements visuals can actually enhance experience. One thing I've seen about audio with the visuals, I think that is why if you watch like a movie, a movie is 90 minutes normally, 90 minutes around there. Some these days the people are stretching it to 2.5 hours. I've seen movies where even they tell you they pause the movie, go go have a break and come back for the movie. This is how far movies are gone. But they can see that the job of a movie is to compress a whole life experience that actually can be like 8 years, and then they are giving you an opportunity to experience all of the emotions you experience in a period of like 8 years in like 30 minutes. Some these days, if it's visual, I've seen, like, I think I watched an animation yesterday on Netflix. There was 12 minutes and it was just a cartoon moving around, and basically you were seeing this whole story. I even felt emotional because the story, well, I think it's a story about family. I think it's a cartoon which a guy and a chick who lose a child. So you figure it out along the way, and then somehow they take you back, and the kid maybe was shot through in a school shootout. And the movie is 12 minutes. Check Netflix. I don't remember the title, but it's a 12-minute movie on Netflix. But you can see that that was just visual only, no audio. But then you can find that in movies, they're trying to put a whole life experience in 90 minutes, and you're supposed to be able to feel all the emotions of life in 90 minutes. You feel the anger, and then that's why you find that if it's a scary movie, they'll put the soundtrack different. And then when maybe when the scary moment comes, you jump with the movie. So meaning expression of the expression of being scared is done. Then when a person is running away from something, the beat is going with it, dun dun. If it's like Mission Impossible, you feel like you're running with them as well. So that's the whole thing about audio as part of the experience for your presentations. Okay, let's go to the eighth one is practice. You have to practice your pitch. You cannot think that you're going to wing it. So that if you practice, extra practice will give you a better result on any day. So we get better by repetition. So put your reps in. You have to be able, for you to tell the story well, you need to have told it before. You don't think you're just going to tell the story and wing it on day one. There's better ways of saying stuff. Using the quotes. If you have quotes that are compelling, we talked about quotes earlier, you need sometimes, if you say it the way you found it, it stays pristine, because some of these quotes are too good that even when you try to tell it again, you're like, I didn't do it well. So sometimes it requires for you, it's like a Bible quote. A Bible quote is as nice as it is in the Bible. The moment you kind of veer from it, you can only veer from it when you're trying to put your own understanding to it. Otherwise, it's Proverbs this. It sounds good the way it is. All right. So we have quotes. Then we have being truthful and challenging people to go through this journey with you. Do that by repetition. Sometimes you have to make the call to action several times for people to be reminded, like, hey, get on board, get on board. Sometimes you don't have to say yes. You don't have to say make the request once. Don't make the call to action only once. And one thing I say about repetition is that sometimes when the idea is still fresh to you, the more you say the thing, the more you get sold on it. And then when you sell yourself on it over time through repetition, you start having the conviction behind it that is very visible to somebody else. It's like the whole thing where they say that if you tell a lie so many times, you start believing it. Even the people around you, they actually can alter your entire life. If you say the lie too much, you start believing it. It's like the flip of it, but basically get better by repetition. Hope that actually does make sense. I think we're almost done. So we've seen the reasons, the whole spectrum of things that you can do to make a person flip, to make that choice. So all the things we've talked about is creating an environment that makes people feel like buying. That's the buying process. So this is a bonus that I got, which is 4 reasons people change. And people change. So most of the time is a person you're pitching your idea to, there is where they are right now, which is this guy down here. But then there is where they would like to be, especially if they made the choice to. And what is in there is the gap. And normally what you're doing there is to fill that gap with your product or service, whatever, or your offer. So the thing is that people people will change when they hurt enough, they have to. The people will change when they see enough that they inspire to. People change when they learn enough that they want to. People will change when they receive enough that they're able to. So that's basically what we've covered on creating an environment that makes people feel like buying. And as a summary, where we have talked about storytelling, accurate facts, quotes, straight talk, passion, challenge, images and video, and then the last one is practice. So on a scale, the ones that I've seen, especially for music and video, you find that may work in maybe like big rooms with big groups, images, video, and music. But then you find there are somewhere which are cross-cutting all over. Storytelling is the one I spent the most time on. Then practice is another one I told spend more time on. Then we have straight talk, be clear with closing people on, use quotes to validate that you know your stuff, then challenging people as well. So that is basically what you talk about in the art of persuasion. So what I say to myself, like, for those of you who have a question, maybe you can type it in or open the mic. We can do like 5 minutes of that because I wanted this to run for like only 1 hour. I hope you got much value from this. Maybe you can comment and tell and say what it's been like for you guys. Okay. For those who are still on. Otherwise, I'm going to, maybe I can take the questions afterwards. I hope you got some value from this though. Okay. All right. So how can I work with you guys? So here's the thing. One thing I've realized that the moment you decide to join the entrepreneurship journey, you find that there's all these micro skills that you do not know about. So what I've found is that you can only run your business on emotion for so long before you need to start making data-driven decisions, and that becoming strategic about how you make decisions. So that's why I want to work with guys on this. So you can build a business on strategy, but what does that mean? So Alex Omozi, he says that strategy is equal to prioritizing. So you can define strategy as how you allocate your limited resources, your time, your energy, and your money against unlimited options that exist in the world. That's a good definition of strategy that I've seen for myself. So we look my job right now is to think about helping you develop like metrics for your business. So if you say this is my organization, this is my mission, this is my vision, then these are objectives, and how do I know that I'm moving from point A to point B? How do I make sure that, because the business, if the business looks so big, if until you put a frame around it, it's just like a car is too much drama at the beginning until you know that, okay, am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? Do I have fuel in the car? So the whole thing about business is to be able to make decisions based not on logic, not emotion, is where you can actually make the changes. Okay. So I would like to help people do that for their business, because that's what I do with my 9 to 5, but I'm extending that because I feel like so many people run businesses with emotion and that's why they crash. So that's my proposition for you guys. Okay. Then basically we're going to go through a sample of an organization which is strategic. So if you look at Google has a mission, which is to organize the world's information and make it useful and universally accessible and useful. So the words that are underlined is the keywords that show why it exists. So if you look at the word organize information as a keyword, you know that Google is basically getting web pages, images, email, flights. That's basically information. And you know that happening the best place you can actually find that these things are happening is in the latest shareholders for these companies. And what you've seen is that Google is able to acquire a company as long as it fulfills this mission, and then they track the metrics via numbers to be like this, because you can only run on emotion, especially when the organization is big. Right now, when you're alone, you can run on emotion, but then when it involves other people, you start to have to make data-based decisions. That's what I actually do help people do. So if you look at another word, which is universally accessible, which means access. This means for Google, like indexing data, categorizing it, storing it. This is now the universally accessible. And how do they know it's happening? More languages with access, mobile devices, voice. And you'll see that Android was an acquisition that was actually helping them have more access. Let's go. Look at another one, which is still on access. All the information is, you can see that still on access. The algorithm is there, advertising inside there. How do they know it? They have satellites roaming for accuracy of maps. and find all the algorithms are inside there because that is their mission and they can track that. This is data-based. They were moving towards our goal of organizing the world's information, making it universally accessible and useful. Okay, still, so you can see that the fundamentals of business are basically followed by Google on this. There is a problem, and then they have identified, so basically they've understood the problem and seek to solve it with their product or service. Then they've been able to identify a real life problem that exists among certain participants in the market and then to provide a solution. So they've used the basics of business to build their solution. Then they track and see that, are we going to our vision of providing access to the world's information in one click? So they're basically Google is actually optimizing for that. So that's what actually can help a person do. We can actually work together and so basically I've explained my core offer for you to work with me is to provide clarity and vision for direction of your business, because that's what actually helps you make decisions. Then we basically are able to allocate your resources properly, which is your time and finances, then how to identify opportunities, and then be proactive using data. That is my function. That's what actually can help a person to do, right? So other offers that I do have is every time I find a problem in the marketplace, I sit down. So I'm a copious note taker. If you see I'm a person who does, this, again, if I showed you, this is next to my table, but I take notes on things. I pull out, this is all my lessons and stuff. Sometimes I find a problem and then I'm like, why can't I create the resources to solve it? So I'll be sharing maybe resources along the way, just like I did this one. But then my core that I do is strategy, creating performance measurement frameworks, and helping people to have a structure to make decisions in their businesses. With that, I think I'm done. I think we've kept it within 1 hour. So for those of you who have been able to keep it within, I've been able to record this. I'm going to extract what I've shared here, and then maybe for those of you who want, I'll send a replay to you. Okay, hope you got some value from this. Unless you have some questions, I'm gonna keep it. Hope you got some value from this. Do we have I think I'm done. For those of you who have been late for this one, I hope you got some value from this though. Any questions? Any questions? You can put in the chat or you can unmute yourself. We're kind of open house now. You can actually put a comment in if you really have to. I can actually respond to the chats if you have any question. For those of you who are late, like I've said before, I'll find a way of sending a recording. Maybe I'll upload it on YouTube, or maybe I'll actually have it on the Zoom cloud side for replay. All right. Any questions? Any questions before I close this out? I can see we have. I'm going to stop even sharing. Let me stop the share. Yeah, we have a couple of people. Any questions? I see Anthony. I see.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing.
Yes, Nicholas. You have any question? Good seeing you though. It's been a while.
Eye-opening and interesting to catch up. Yes, indeed.
I have work to do
very,
with.
very powerful. I'm definitely enjoying.
Jumped on. Anthony, I can see you there as well. Nicholas, I think you jumped off and you're back on again. All right. I think I'm gonna put this one to a close. But Nicholas, I think I have some work I'm supposed to do with you in Vandras on your company. So kind of I think I'll reach out and we see what we can work on you. I think you had the thing about pitching your offer with your tech company. So I know we can do something. Anthony, what up? And I can see we have Omolunji Shiba. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send a link to the people via email. Check your emails. I'm gonna send a recording, a link to the recording. Either I may put this on YouTube or I may send a link that's from the Zoom resources here. Thanks for coming on board. I think I'll see you on the next one. So have a good one. I'm out.